Now broadcasting from his hidden bunker and fully stocked bar, it is the Saturday Report with Colt Sebastian Taylor.
Thank you and welcome once again, my friends, to the Saturday Report with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor, adventurer, entrepreneur, and the sizzle of Rizzle. Just for those who may want to check me out on there, I am pretty amazing. Welcome to AWSM Radio, an independent digital-only radio station that plays today's best music, old school classics, along with a rotating cast of all-star DJs. AWSM Radio focuses on mainstream artists, independent artists, along with a variety of interesting talk and music shows throughout the day. All we do is entertain, inspire, and inform. And I want to engage with you, my friends, and have you be part of the conversation. So, find me on the Twitter, the Rizzle, the Instagram, the Cameo, at Colt S. Taylor. And if you haven't already, bookmark ColtSebastianTaylor.com for all of my fantastic and fabulous updates throughout the month. All right, folks, let's get started with this week's Saturday Report. First up this week, it's time for my final Olympics update. The 2020 Olympics, held in 2021 in Japan due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Pandemic last year caused a one-year delay. First time since World War II since there was any sort of delay in the Olympic Games and whatnot, but fortunately they were able to get it in. The final medal count, the United States ended up with the most gold medals this year with 39 and the most overall medals at 113. China came in second with 38. Japan, the host country, 27. Great Britain, 22. The Russians competing not as Russia, but sort of kind of Russia team, 20. Australia had 17. And the Netherlands, France, Germany, and Italy all had 10 medals each. There were no more additional podium sweeps, as it were. Just Switzerland and Jamaica last week. They're both, but do note they were both women's events. Women's cross-country mountain biking and women's 100 meters were all swept by those countries, respectively. It's somewhat of a rare feat. Going to India. India ended up with 1 gold medal, 2 silver, and 4 bronze, and a very impressive gold medal. Men's javelin, Neerja Chopra won India's first ever gold medal in athletics, and the second individual gold medal since 2008 when it won its first. It was also India's first athletics medal since appearing in the Olympics as an independent nation in 1948. Third overall in the year 1900, India's Norman Pritchard won a silver medal. And then they took a few cycles off and came back in 1920. And then India's first ever silver in women's weightlifting by Sekhom Marie Chanu. Congratulations. Becoming the first Indian Olympic medalist in the weightlifting sport since 2000. PV Sandhu won a bronze in women's badminton. The first female athlete and second Indian to win 2 consecutive Olympic medals, which is quite a feat. She won the silver medal in 2016. And then the men's national field hockey team won a bronze medal, their first Olympic medal since 1980. Pretty impressive. Very, very impressive. And then finally, just as a note, according to the article here, the men's 4x4 400 relay team set a new record from an Asian country at 3 minutes and a quarter second. And then Adi Astok in women's golf and Deepika Punia in men's freestyle wrestling both placed 4th, as did the women's national field hockey team, which is all were the best performances by athletes from India in those respective sports. So congratulations to all of my fans over there in India who are following the Olympics. A very, very impressive showing there from India. Hits a lot of milestones, made a lot of accomplishments in the Olympic Games. So congratulations. So the Olympics are now done. The next Summer Olympics will be in 2024 in Paris, France. I can only assume that AWSM Radio will fly me over there for on-the-ground correspondence by 2024, because I'm saying probably within months they'll be offering me a multi-million-dollar deal. I think that's how online radio works, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty soon to be crazy online radio rich. Oh, it's gonna be so great. I'll probably have like an assistant who does nothing but brings me jelly beans. I like the lemon ones. Just in case anyone is curious. Anyways, that is my final Summer Olympics update. Next up, we go to sports, specifically baseball and movies. So one of the greatest baseball movies of all time, Field of Dreams, starring a very young Kevin Costner. If you haven't seen it, you are missing out. But basically, plot is, guy's out in Iowa, hears a mysterious voice, tells him to build a baseball field. He builds a baseball field, ghosts show up, play baseball, reconnects with his ghost dad, etc., etc., etc. Well, anyways, very big baseball movie, and Major League Baseball decided to have a quote-unquote Field of Dreams game this week. Whereas after they did that movie, they were going to tear down the baseball field and, just return to a cornfield, because they built out in the middle of Iowa in the cornfield. And then Kevin Costner convinced the producers, like, what, you should keep this. I think it's going to be something big. And became a tourist attraction. People will come and see the Field of Dreams baseball field. And Major League Baseball decided to have a baseball game there. Now, they had to build a new field because the field they built for the movie wasn't exactly Major League Baseball regulation. But they built a field next to it, and they had a game this week. And the introduction of the beginning of the game, you know what? In terms of presentation, very, very, very cool. So basically, it starts off, this person's walking through a cornfield and comes out of the cornfield, and it's Kevin Costner! Kevin Costner has come out of the cornfield to this baseball game. Fans are roaring. He's kind of wandering out onto the field. And then behind him, both the teams, which is the Yankees and the White Sox, come out of the cornfield and take the field. And they're all wearing uniforms from the 1920s and whatnot. And it was a really nice presentation. And the ending was pretty amazing, too. It was a walk-off home run by the White Sox, which is pretty, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive ending to a Field of Dreams game. They built stands. You can only see 8,000. It's not like the tens of thousands of like normal baseball stadiums. And it was very, very well received. Now, this is what they consider to be a neutral site game, because there's no home team, no visitors team, and whatnot. They do that. Now, I did some cursory research. I don't know if they're going to do this every year, but I think they should. I think they should do that every year, have a game there. And I also, hear me out, friends. What's to say there shouldn't be like a game there once a month by some baseball team? I think every baseball team should have an opportunity to play there. And I think it's a really, really neat thing to do, and has to make money. I guess the more you do it, might be less of a ooh, look at that. But I think they should do it more than once a year, and they should definitely do it at least once a year. I think they should do it more than once a year, because it's a pretty neat little stadium they built there. And apparently this has been under wraps for 18 months. Kevin Costner said the producer of the film who was involved with this, so they get all sort of the aesthetics right of it being Field of Dreams, was working on this for 18 months and didn't tell Kevin Costner because he was under a non-disclosure agreement and whatnot. But he was happy to participate there, and he stayed around for the entire game and shook hands and whatnot, and it was a pretty neat thing. Major League Baseball, I'm not a huge baseball fan. I casually follow it. But in terms of presentation and production value, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Speaking of movies, Cineworld, which is a major theater operations, mostly in the United Kingdom, but has a few hundred theaters here in the United States, posted a $209 million operating loss for the first half of the year, still struggling to recover from COVID-19 pandemic. Found itself closed for most of the year last year. Still struggling to keep things open in the United Kingdom. But they remain bullish on their revenue going in the future because of movie releases and things opening up again. The $200 million loss was much better than last year, where they lost over $1 billion due to theaters closing. Regal, AMC, both of those major movie companies also suffering greatly. Cineworld, however, did see an uptick in stock trading because of, they call them meme stocks, where folks on Reddit and online have been buying up these stocks just to drive up the price to basically bankrupt hedge funds. Hedge funds bet against these stocks, drive them down, they make lots of money, and so these people online target these stocks, buy a lot of them, drive up the prices, and make hedge funds lose sometimes tens of millions of dollars and whatnot. So I find that aspect of that very funny, of folks trying to drive down the price of companies on the stock market so they can make money, only to have their tactics used against them. This caused a lot of issues with people with apps like Robinhood, who saw this, got pressure from regulators, and then suddenly, instead of buying, 500 shares of a stock like Cineworld, you could buy one a day, just to sort of, prevent people from doing that. There were class action lawsuits. It was a whole mess, which doesn't impact me. I don't trade on the stock market. I only trade in whiskey, which is not a long-term investment, but a good investment any way you see it. But Cineworld hopefully will rebound in the UK and the US here. I don't think there's any Cineworld theaters near where I live. I don't know. I know there's Regal, there's AMC's near me, and a bunch of independent operators who've been hit really hard by this. So folks, if you are vaccinated and you feel comfortable and your community isn't a bunch of slack-jawed yokels, support your local movie theaters. They need it much more than these conglomerates. Just saying. Now, I'll tell you who's not a slack-jawed yokel. He is the creme de la creme of DJs. It's my pal DC, and he has a show here on AWSM Radio. DC live in effect, Fridays at 9 p.m., Sundays at 10 p.m. I'm not sure why people even go out anymore. They should be listening to this show here. You do not want to miss it, my friends. Well, he smashes it on the ones and twos, kicking the beats from his South Florida compound every single week here on AWSM Radio. So you need to listen to him. DC live in effect, Fridays at 9, Sundays at 10, right here on AWSM Radio. Next, friends, we go to one of my favorite subjects, cake. So good. Well, how much would you pay for a slice of cake? Let me ask you this. $20? $30? How about $2,500? Yes, at an auction, a piece of cake sold for $2,500. You probably think to yourself, boy, it must be good. Boy, it must be made out of something so amazing that would command the price. It's rare. It's amazing. It's also 40 years old. Yes, someone bought a 40-year-old piece of cake for $2,500. It is a slice of Princess Diana and Prince Charles wedding cake from 1981. Yeah. So, the auctioneer did not recommend eating it, but it is I would say about like a foot by foot piece of cake that weighs just about 2 pounds. It features the royal coat of arms. It has the it's a royal piece of wedding cake. So apparently this piece was given to somebody after the wedding. It was wrapped in cling wrap, put in a freezer, and it just pretty much stayed there for the last 38 years. And then after that person passed away, they went through her things and like, oh boy, this is a piece of a wedding cake. And it went to auction. Came with a program, A little note of authentication. I mean, you can't really test pieces of wedding cake to see if they're legit, but it seems to be wedding cake from Prince Charles and Princess Diana, who were married in St. Paul's Cathedral, I see in my notes here, on July 29th, 1981. So over 40-year-old piece of cake sold for $2,500. It included the Order of Service program for the wedding ceremony, as well as a memorial royal wedding breakfast menu and table seating program at Buckingham Palace. And someone will now have to make some room in their freezer for this 40-year-old piece of cake. Hopefully, unlike some other people I know, the owner won't have a late night of, let's say, imbibing in various elixirs of the gods. Get a case of the munchies and eat a quarter half piece of 40-year-old cake. I would imagine, just guessing, that, well, first, the freezer burn is probably terrible. And second, 40-year-old birthday cake on top of a stomach full of booze will probably not mix well. I'm just guessing. Just guessing. Probably will not mix well. But talk about a rare piece of history. Piece of cake, $2,500. I guess if you're really a big fan of Princess Diana, dropping that money down for that item probably is a piece of cake. Boom! Best joke in the world. Staying in Europe, the hottest temperature ever recorded in Europe occurred this week in Sicily, where the Sicilian city of, Siracusa had a temperature of 119.8 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not the heat index. That is the actual temperature that was recorded in Sicily. If confirmed by the World Meteorological Organization, it would be a record for Europe. The previous record was in Athens, Greece, 118 degrees in 1977. But it's just a sort of formality to verify it. But it is the hottest. They have a hot weather. There is a anticyclone, which is a large storm churning over Europe that's pulling up heat from the south into Europe for these increased temperatures in Lower Italy and Europe overall. In Spain, the same storm has caused a meteo tsunami, which is basically they're experiencing some pretty bad coastal flooding because the winds have been pushing these waves up against various Spanish resorts, and they occasionally flood, but they've been experiencing a whole lot of flooding in Spain, also along the Black Sea, in parts of Greece and Turkey. They're just experiencing a lot of flooding from these waves. They're being pushed up by this very strong cyclonic storm going up through Europe. It does happen from time to time, but the meteorologists are saying that this is a bit more intense than usual. Even in Venice this week, Venice, as you will probably know, as famous for its canals, and the city is slowly sinking. They have a variety of anti-flooding measures. So they built this sort of big old berm out in the ocean to keep the waters up so it doesn't flood out the streets and ruin the tourist attractions. Well, Venice flooded this week because the flood defenses were not basically turned on because they were not expecting this amount of water. Usually they're lowered to allow ships and stuff to pass through, and then when they know a big storm is coming, they'll raise them up and give them a little bit extra protection. This surprised them, and there was some flooding in Venice, and you see these tourists walking around in ankle and knee-deep water visiting these stores and whatnot. And I mean, I don't like walking around wet socks. It just sounds miserable. But this was a pretty big storm that caused a lot of problems, including hottest temperature ever recorded in Europe, subject to verification, but it should be verified, 119.8 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot. That is hot. I mean, I think the hottest temperature I have ever experienced that wasn't heat index was like 105, 108 when I went to Arizona. But this, I can't, no thank you. No thank you. I'll take my air conditioning. Now we go to space. Well, Mars. Well, not Mars. NASA. NASA's looking for volunteers to find out what it's like. They're going to live in a year-long simulation of what it would be like to live on Mars in a habitat at the Johnson Space Center in Texas. They're going to be moved into the Mars Dune Alpha. It is they call it a star, not an architect, but a Startech design habitat, touted to be, quote, the highest fidelity simulated habitat ever constructed on the Red Planet. So basically, they hired an architect to build a habitat that would be enjoyable for a group of people to live together for a long period of time with each other. Now, kind of like Big Brother, only on Mars. It is a 1,700 square foot, designed to help astronauts overcome mental and physical challenges they would encounter on Mars. Supposed to be supportive and healthy, but also, unlike other habitats, not sacrifice aesthetics. It's supposed to be pleasing to the eye. Okay, not like some sort of crampy dorm room, but kind of like, like a little apartment. So basically, they're going to have four people there. Everyone gets their own little room instead of like a common sleeping area. And then there's going to be 2 bathrooms on each end of the habitat, so they don't have to all share the same bathroom. And basically, they've taken data they've found from submarines, Antarctic research stations, even the International Space Station, of like what people react well to, what people feel good about doing, and how they get along with others in confined space to design this habitat. It's also going to have a gym, areas for lounging and working and relaxing, a vegetable nursery, and like a small little kitchen and whatnot. And there are going to be light adjustments. The lights are going up and down to help people regulate their sleep. So it should be very, very interesting. Probably yourself, well, hey, I would want to do this. Well, there are some qualifications to do this. Okay, you have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. Okay, between the ages of 30 and 55. Okay, possess a master's degree in a STEM field, including engineering, biological science, physical science, computer science, or mathematics, or an accredited institution. Have at least 2 years of related professional experience in the STEM field, or at least 1,000 hours flying a jet aircraft. Be able to pass NASA's long-duration flight astronaut physical. So I feel like I don't have that area of expertise. The master's degree's requirement can also be met by 2 years of work towards a doctoral program in science, technology, engineering, or math, a completed doctorate of medicine or orthopedic medicine degree, and then or a completion of a nationally recognized test pilot school program. So I meet the first 2 requirements. 3, 4, 5, maybe not. But if you're out there and would like to give it a whirl, I highly encourage it. Give it a whirl. Now, finally, the other neat thing about this habitat is that it is built using 3D printing technology. So basically, it's printed in these large plastic printers and whatnot. And they think it's a viable way to build things on Mars, is just to send these big printers up there with the material to print out these parts, and then they can put it together. It was also, finally, it was designed by a Danish architect, known for his bombastic design solutions, and basically he is the go-to design visionary for building living ecosystems on a scorching hot planet without breathable air or potable water. And also, this gentleman is working on solutions in a simulation of a Martian city on the deserts of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So Very, very interesting. If there's an update that pops up about this, I, my friends, will certainly let you know. And if you end up being selected, you should let me know too, so I can interview you. Speaking of out of this world, you need to listen to, my friends, the Rock Sessions, hosted by my fantastic, beautiful pal, Rox. It is our drive time show here on AWSM Radio, and she's going to make sure your evening commute home is fun, featuring the hottest music on the charts, and some other surprises in between. She will make it rock style, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., right here on AWSM Radio. We now go back to space and India once again, where this week, unfortunately, they launched a rocket that did not carry a satellite out into space. It crashed about 5 minutes after liftoff from the Indian Space Research Organization, the ISRO. It has had some real trouble in the last year and a half with its space program because of COVID-19. Some technical failures, and this is just one of another failure that happened. It was supposed to launch a geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle, which is basically, if you don't know, geosynchronous means it goes around the Earth, but it stays in one spot, so it's always hovering over a part of the world. And it was launched from the Satish Dhawan Space Center along India's east coast. It was supposed to be in March of last year, but technical glitches stopped it. And then another wave of COVID-19 kind of put some stress on the personnel there, so they had to wait further with it. And the first 2 stages of this rocket was successful, but the third stage experienced a failure, and it did not get into orbit. Now, the satellite was supposed to be the satellite being launched in space was supposed to have almost real-time imaging of a large area with frequent intervals. So basically used to monitor natural disasters, regional events, and help with forestry, agricultural industries, and monitor bodies of water. So they will have to try that again with another satellite. This is, however, the first failure in the last 16 consecutive successful launches of this space of a rocket in India. And however, this is the 4th time this particular type of rocket, the GSLV, has failed since 2010. So it doesn't have a spotless record, as it were. But they'll probably figure out what went wrong, put together another satellite, and get that up soon. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the failure of the rocket. If you go onto YouTube, there's a lot of rocket failure videos out there. The most recent one here near me of note was 2 or 3 years ago, where people were watching this rocket launch from Virginia, and it goes up about 100 feet in the air. Something goes poof, comes back down, and just explodes. A boom that could be heard, I think, 5-10 miles away. It was that loud of an explosion. And it's funny, because people are watching from like 3 or 5 miles out, and they see what happens, but the sound, there's a delay, kind of like lightning and thunder. So they see this rocket go up, they come down, and then you see a big flash, and you hear the sound of a brrr, pop, boom, and it's like a shockwave of sound, just like frightened everyone. So I highly recommend you check it out. It's quite a video. But no one was hurt in this one, so they will probably give it another shot sometime later this year. We now go back to sports, where Leo Messi, also known as Lionel Messi, famous soccer player from Argentina, Argentine playing for Barcelona, has now left and signed a contract with a new team coming to Paris Saint-Germain, also PSG for short, being paid $25 to $35 million for the next 2 years with the option of doing a third year. But a part of his salary is going to be paid in cryptocurrency. Yes, cryptocurrency. Now, he isn't the first athlete to ask for this. There's some NFL players who have asked for cryptocurrency, but he's the first, the sort of big mainstay athlete who has done it. Like, he's very big in the whole world of soccer, Messi here. And he's being paid in PSG fan tokens, which are being traded on cryptocurrency. It gives people who own these tokens some rights, some ownership, and some voting rights to certain aspects of the team. They can vote on naming the year's best goal, who wins the end-year team award, and what motivational message is painted on the dressing room wall every year, among other things. So that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't say how much he's being paid, but a good chunk of his salary apparently is being paid in cryptocurrency. Now, cryptocurrency is dangerous. It's the Wild West of finance. Like, if you lose, it's basically holding cash or like property. Like, if you lose $50, there's no getting that back. It's gone. And much like with cryptocurrency, if you have it on a computer or a USB stick, if you lose it or someone hacks it and steals it, then it's gone. That's all she wrote. Bye-bye. In fact, recently a cryptocurrency company had $600 million worth of cryptocurrency stolen from them. Or $600 billion. I don't know. A ridiculous amount of money was stolen from them, and they don't know how to get it back. So hopefully Messi here has some smart folks that knows how to deal with that, and we'll be able to protect that. Now, the cryptocurrency is, like I said, it's a commodity. So what it's worth today may be worth different than it will be later. 10 years ago, you could buy a Bitcoin for $35. Today, it's, I think, north of $20,000. So, if you got paid 5 Bitcoins in 2010, they gave you, that was like $40. Today, that might be $100,000. Same thing. He might get paid in $10 million of cryptocurrency. If the markets crash, it might only be worth, pennies on the dollar. So that's another danger with cryptocurrency also. From a tax perspective, it's also very, very tricky. Like, if you were to pay your pal, Colt Sebastian Taylor, $10 million in cryptocurrency for the fantastic show that he does, and I do a fantastic show, I would have to pay taxes on that cryptocurrency when I got paid. So it would be as like income. Then, when I sold that cryptocurrency, because that's how people make money off it, they hold it and they sell it, I have to pay capital gains tax on it, either short-term or long-term capital gains tax on those. So basically, I'd be taxed twice on that, on that stuff. Now, keep in mind that cryptocurrency is worth exactly the same amount when I got it. There's no taxes. If it lost value and I sold it, I could take a deduction. If it got much, much higher, I would have to pay a tax on that. So it is immensely complicated. And I highly recommend that you consult a financial advisor and a web security expert before you even dip your toe in this, because it is, you could lose a lot of money. It's like playing the stock market, only with things that you can never physically hold. It's intangible. It is only online. It's a digital currency. So, but anyways, Messi, he's now kicking goals for Paris Saint-Germain, and will be filling up his bank account with PSG tokens and cash. So, good luck to you there, Messi. Be sure your password isn't 12345. That's the same password on a lot of luggage. Speaking of sports, my friends, you need to listen to AWSM Radio's new sports show, Married to the Game. It broadcasts every Wednesday at 9 p.m. You will want to join Brian, Joe, Mac Daddy as they bring their insights, their analytics, and expertise to all things games to the table. And what kind of sports show would it be without some trash talking, a little trash talking in between? They might even talk about cryptocurrency too. I mean, it's big news, big money, big news, big cryptocurrency, soccer. I'm sure they'll cover it. Tune in to catch up on all the week stuff, all the stuff that happened this week involving sports. Follow them on Instagram. Joe at Turn Up the Jets, Nick at Mac Daddy Ryan Show, Brian at bolstered_up_sports, and of course, the show itself, Married to the Game, MTTG Radio, all on Instagram. Tell them that Colt Sebastian Taylor sent you. Catch up on all things sports. Married to the Game, Wednesday 9 p.m. right here on AWSM Radio. We now go to the United Kingdom, where there is an effort to spare an alpaca named Dramino from being euthanized. Apparently, he has tested positive for bovine tuberculosis, which is very contagious, I guess, amongst bovines, and he is going to be destroyed because they can't let that infect other livestock. His owner, Helen McDonald, says the testing is flawed and her animal is healthy. The animal has been kept in isolation since 2017. There have been a few positive tests, but her owner insists that it is false positives and that the test being used is not very good, and she wants to use a different test which has much more improved sensitivity. So what they want to do is to move this animal to a research facility to be researched to see what's going on with these positive tests to save it, so that it isn't destroyed. This is being pushed by the British Alpaca Society, which I did not know exist. They're accusing the government of not wanting to learn what is going on. Okay. They say that for years the test on Dramino is healthy, as are the alpacas have been sharing his padlock. Indeed, the alpacas have traveled to New Zealand with Dramino on the same or contagious crates. None of the other alpacas have tested positive, so they're saying that this alpaca, Dramino, is healthy. So there is a petition. There's money being raised for it. She wants to keep her alpaca, but instead of the alpaca being destroyed, being transferred to a university for research would be the next best thing. So I'll try to keep an eye on this and see if this alpaca survives. It's quite the tussle, apparently, in the courts, what to do with this animal and whatnot. So hopefully they get an accurate test and find out one way or another whether this animal is carrying a contagious disease or not. Finally, folks, Jeopardy has selected its new host. As you know, the great Alex Trebek died last year in 2020 after a long battle with pancreatic cancer, and they went on to a whole bunch of different guest hosts while they're trying to select a new host, and they have selected for the main host of Jeopardy to be Mike Richards, while Mahim Balik of Blossom and Big Bang Theory fame will be doing some franchise spin-off shows. Sony Pictures announced this week. I think they're okay selections. I mean, Mike Richards apparently is the executive producer, so he kind of was in charge of finding someone to take over, and he, I guess, picked himself. I guess there's a larger decision-making body there. You know who I think should have been the host? LeVar Burton, Reading Rainbow, Geordie LaForge. I think he did a fine job, and he's so big with learning and reading and education that I think he would have been a delightful choice. But no one listens to me, and I wasn't even considered to be a guest host. I would have been fantastic, I think. Well, friends, that just about wraps up this week's Saturday Report with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Remember, you can find me on the Twitter, on the Rizzle, on the Instagram, and on the Cameo at Colt S. Taylor. Please feel free to engage with me on there if you think there's a story I missed, you want me to check back on something, or just say how fantastic I am. I like the attention regardless. And if you haven't already, bookmark ColtSebastianTaylor.com to be up to date with all of my adventures. And finally, if you find yourself unable to get here on the weekend to listen to my show, it's okay. We have busy lives. Shame on you, but you'll come around. Subscribe to this show, which I upload to anchor.fm/Colt S. Taylor, and you can listen to it every single week on your podcast player program of choice, however that works. So go there also. So, until next time, my friends, I am, of course, as always, your friend, Colt Sebastian Taylor, and I'll see you later.